Hey everyone, Flo from Off the Lens here, and today's video is about Blackmagic's new full-frame cinema camera. So I've had the incredible opportunity to get my hands early on this new camera, and in this video I want to share with you my first impressions, my experience filming with it, what this camera is, and why I'm personally very excited about this new release. And of course I also want to show you some footage that I've captured over the past few days. I'm also very curious to know what you guys think about this new camera, so feel free to use this video as a discussion and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe, as I will have a lot more content around this camera, like reviews, comparisons, and more test footage. And if you don't know who I am, I'm a French-Australian filmmaker based in French Alps, and I shoot mostly documentary and travel content. And of course, I also make YouTube videos where I share everything filmmaking related. And by the way, this is the actual camera. I know on YouTube it's very common to have clickbaity things. This is the real thing. I just wanted to make that clear. Now let's get into it. As you can see, this camera looks very similar to the 6K Pro and the 6K G2, but there are two main differences. This one is full frame and it has an L mount. It features a 6K sensor that allows you to shoot open gate as well as 6x5 anamorphic, and a bunch of other resolutions such as 6K DCI, 4K S35 and even Super 16. Here's a quick summary of the different options, so feel free to pause for a second. So it shares a lot of similarities, of course, with the 6K Pro and the 6K G2, like the button layouts, the tiltable screen, the batteries, the menus, but they are different. So for example, the other two have a CFast and SD card slots. This one has a CF Express card and only one slot. And this camera also has an optical low-pass filter. In terms of frame rates, you can shoot up to 36 FPS in open gate and 6x5 anamorphic, and you can also shoot 48 FPS in 6K DCI and up to 60 FPS in 6K 2.4:1. And this camera doesn't have internal NDs like the 6K Pro. And of course, feel free to check Blackmagic Design's website for all the info. So I've had the camera for nearly a week now, so I managed to shoot quite a bit and I'm starting to get really familiar with it. So when you pick up the camera, it really feels like the 6K Pro is very comfortable, it has a similar weight, but it's obviously a lot slimmer. And as you can see, the mount is quite different and the sensor is actually huge. And the mount also feels very secure and tight. So in order to test this camera, I've used it with a bunch of different lenses, either cine or standard zoom lenses, using an adapter, the Sigma MC21. So first of all, I use my 24-105 Canon f4, since it's a lens that I use all the time and I'm very familiar with it. Then the Siri 24mm Jupiter T2. This is because it's a full frame glass, a Cine one, and I really love the image. And when it comes to anamorphic, I use the Greyjoy or Blazer 1.8x 50mm. First of all, because it's full frame, and again, I also love the image. And by the way, as always, all the gear will be listed below. Also, because I had this camera before its release, I didn't have a cage. I did manage to fit the 6K Pro cage on it, but it's not a perfect fit, so I don't really recommend it for now, or didn't want to rely on it, putting like a big rig. So I had to be pretty nimble, and also because I didn't want people to be aware which camera I was using, even though it looks very similar, there's still a difference in terms of the mount, the shape, and also the logo in front. Filming with this camera was very similar to filming with the 6K Pro. It's got the same menus, it feels the same, so anyone that has been using the 6K G2, the 6K Pro, or even the 6K will be very comfortable using this one. But whilst it feels really similar in terms of the physical aspect of it and shooting with it, the sensor is quite different. Shooting open gate with this camera is really incredible, and I spend most of my time doing that. Like I said, I didn't use a monitor, so at the back of the inbuilt monitor, you can kind of tell that it's a different aspect ratio, there's a bit more depth, it's wider depending on the lenses that you're used to, but it's mostly when I put it on the computer that I was shocked. There is something very special about this sensor, and the combination of 6K, full frame, open gate makes for a very immersive and detailed image. I've been shooting with Blackmagic cameras for 10 years now, and with the 6K and the 6K Pro pretty much every week, this is something entirely different. The image reminded me a lot of the Ursa 12K, which is a very good thing. The image is vastly superior compared to my 6K Pro regular 6K, and it's hard to explain how, but it just feels right. I never shot open gate full frame. As you know, most of my content is shot in 16:9 or 2.4:1, so this was very different for me and I was quite surprised. There is so much more room in terms of height in the footage, and that gives you a lot of flexibility to reframe, for example. This is what you get in open gate 6K. and this is the actual area of 2.4:1. So I shot all of my footage in B-RAW 8:1 compression. This camera does not shoot ProRes, but it does record proxies, which can be very handy. In terms of shooting anamorphic, it was a very positive and again, very different experience. Being able to finally use my full frame anamorphic glass on a full frame sensor was great. Shooting 6x5 with this camera allows you to get the anamorphic look without having to crop the sides to get a usable ratio. This is what I used to get with the 6K Pro using the 50mm 1.8 times, and this is what you get in 6x5 with this new camera. I think the final aspect ratio when I was shooting in 6x5, this squeeze at 1.8 times, was 2.16:1, which still gives you a little bit of room to actually crop to 2.4:1, which is awesome. After shooting with this camera for nearly a week, I'm really impressed by it. The image is insane, and all the different options make for a very powerful camera. One thing I do have to mention is the lack of internal NDs. I'm sure there's a perfectly good reason for it, either for the size or the price, but I really wish I had NDs. As you know, I shoot a lot of my content outdoors, whether it's documentaries or travel content, so having internal NDs has always been something that I appreciated because it allows you to be nimble, to be quick. So I really wish that this one had internal NDs, but then again, it's not a deal breaker. I've shot with a BMPCC 4K and a regular 6K for years without having NDs, and it was absolutely fine. When I was filming with standard lenses like my Canon 24-105, I was using my Nisi sweep system in 77mm, and when I was shooting with the Siri 24mm and the gradual anamorphic, then I was using my Nisi C5 matte box. First of all, it's a new product. I'm not gonna lie, I love gear, and I'm always interested by new cameras, especially from Blackmagic. Next is that this camera is full frame, which we haven't seen from Blackmagic yet. And personally, I haven't filmed with a full frame camera since my DSLR days 10 years ago, so I'm very keen to rediscover this format on this new sensor. The other big thing for me is that it comes with an L mount. I have never used this mount until this camera, and this opens up so many possibilities in terms of what lenses I can use. First of all, of course, for actual proper shoots, and also for YouTube. There were so many collab opportunities that I had to refuse simply because I did not have a mirrorless mount. And even brands like Cooke just released their set of their own prime cinema glass made for mirrorless cameras, so this feels like the right path. So essentially, I'm excited to start fresh in a sense. So after using this camera for nearly a week now, I'm genuinely impressed. Whilst the body looks the same as a 6K Pro and a 6K G2, it's an entirely different camera. And shooting open gate, for example, changed the way that I approach composition in a good way. I'm also very happy, like I just said, that they went with an L mount. I think it's a very clever decision. And I think it's pretty impressive, especially for $2,600, that we are able to get a 6K camera full frame that can shoot open gate and 6x5 anamorphic. That's it for me for today, guys. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer them now or in a future video. And also let me know what you think about this new camera and if you do intend to get one. As I said, I will make a lot more videos based around this camera, so stay tuned. And thanks of course to Blackmagic for getting me early access to this camera. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Also, feel free to check out my 2 ebooks, Freelance Documentary Filmmaking and Travel Cinematography, where you can find a streamlined but comprehensive overview from pre-production all the way to marketing, built on years of my own experience shooting short documentaries and travel videos around the world. And if you are interested, I'm also doing filmmaking mentoring sessions when you can ask me anything about a wide variety of topics.